The Philadelphia Church of God presents the Trumpet Daily.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Trumpet Daily. Today we bring you the full-length unedited version of our recent interview with the renowned archaeologist Dr. Eilat Mazar. As many of our viewers know, Dr. Mazar recently uncovered a large stone complex in Jerusalem where there's a wall measuring 70 meters long and 6 meters high that dates back to the days of King Solomon. The excavations in the Ophel area, located between the City of David and the southern wall of the Temple Mount, were carried out over a 3-month period with funding provided by a New York couple interested in biblical archaeology. Archaeology students from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, as well as volunteer students from right here at Herbert W. Armstrong College in Edmond, Oklahoma, all participated in the excavation work. With that, we'll let Dr. Mazar tell you the rest of the story. We recently caught up with her in Jerusalem, where she guided us through the discoveries made on the Ophel. All right, we're here today at the Jerusalem Archaeological Park, just south of the Temple Mount, where the Temple Mount excavations took place beginning in 1968, I believe it was. We're here today with Dr. Eilat Mazar, who's just finished a significant project here in the royal structure, as she calls it. And to begin with, Dr. Mazar, if you could explain, just summarize some of the history of all of the excavations that have taken place here at the Temple Mount, beginning with your grandfather, Benjamin Mazar, back in 1968.
Well, it's a long story, as you said, starting in 1967, when the excavation started at the foot of the Temple Mount enclosure walls, and revealing of very large, interesting complexes, constructions, from all periods of Jerusalem, and concentrating in following history backwards. And only in the very last years of their excavations, which lasted 10 years, they came at the very edge of the excavations area, and finally they found remains from first temple period. That was 3,000 years of history of Jerusalem. And very luckily, the remains here are so nicely preserved, as you can see around us, which is sometimes 5 to 6 meter height of preservation. And the reason is that in this area, the bedrock, the natural bedrock of the hill is very steep, falling down towards the Kidron Valley. And therefore, the preservation is so good, and they had the chance to reveal at the time of their excavations already remains from that period, the destruction of Jerusalem at 586 BCE. The pottery crushed in immense fire of the destruction. This was the last year of their excavations, so they didn't had enough at that time after so many years of excavations. So
that was in 1978?
78,
okay.
Concluding the excavations then.
So your grandfather worked in this area for 10 years, and this, we should also point out, was where the ambassadors helped him for those 10 years, every summer.
The ambassadors worked all over, and the contributions of the ambassadors in the Temple Mount excavations is unbelievable. So, we're coming every summer, sometimes for 2 months, and working. There were dozens of students coming to the excavations. This was a most wonderful, fantastic relationship and getting together and reveal ancient Jerusalem.
How would you characterize your grandfather's relationship with Herbert Armstrong's?
This was a wonderful friendship. They became, at the beginning, they got to know each other, and Mr. Armstrong at the time showed that he wanted to be involved and to contribute, but they became best friends. They were walking around the excavations, hugged together. This was unbelievable. And my grandfather was waiting for Mr. Armstrong's visit. And it became a very strong, unbelievable, fantastic friendship. I think that we are making a best effort, best use out of this friendship, because they kind of led us into it.
Yeah.
So it continues. They established something that continues. Really.
So you started digging when you were 11 years old. along with your grandfather, and that's how you came to get to know some of the ambassadors as well.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
I was a child, and it was like people coming from outworld, you know, out of Jerusalem. I never met. This was fantastic, speaking English and all kinds of languages, and they were so nice even today. I mean, that didn't change, and we were intrigued by their kindness, by their enthusiasm, by their willingness. And we knew so many until today. We knew so many of the ambassadors, and we remember names and kept contacts. This was wonderful.
Yeah.
So it was like one big family excavating Jerusalem.
Back to 1978, your grandfather's just finishing up. He's gone 10 years. And then where did it go from there that led up to your other dig?
True, right. There was a period, a short period of, after the excavations, that almost nothing was done. And, but then we renewed the excavations at 1986, realizing that this area that was touched at the latest of the excavations is really great, has a great potential. And the first temple period is here to be revealed. So we got the sense from their excavations, you know, the previous excavations, but we felt that we must complete. Like this area, we saw the upper parts of the walls, but we didn't see the floor layers.
Right.
And on top layers, usually you've got the finds.
Right.
So it was just a suggestion that I came forward to my grandfather. I didn't believe that he will agree. After so many years excavating, like reopened excavation again, but then he was a great listener, a very wise man, and he said, we'll do it. So he decided to go back. So we did it together. And
you
after
were old enough to get credentials, so he co-signed with you, so to speak.
Yes, I was old enough to get credentials, but never. I mean, they wouldn't let me excavate by myself at that time.
Right.
I was young. I mean, when you reach your 60, you're still young in Jerusalem archaeology. It's very hard. I mean, you earn your credits. It takes so many years. So
did he mainly get you through the door, or did he actually get out here and dig some too?
I mean, combining our forces was the major. This was without him, I wouldn't be able to do it.
And then what did you discover then, all totaled? How much did you dig in 1986? Just a few months?
Few weeks.
Few weeks.
A few weeks in 1986, few weeks in 1987. We didn't have any money, just, you know, asking. This was Dr. Hecht, that he led us some, a few thousands. And we did immense work getting it out of almost no fund. The thing is that after a week of excavations, we start to pick up, pottery, and discovering this destruction layer, really getting our hands black from the fire of the destruction
of the Babylonians.
Oh yeah, so it was obvious that we are having this original level of the first temple period.
There's one place in your book, I think you said that in that first week you basically went over to one of the areas, dug down maybe a couple inches, and already you could see the blackened, burned out remains.
True, but you have to really imagine, like, I felt that this is the right thing, but I could have been wrong. And to get everything done, and the excavations were open, and being wrong, it's not that fun.
Right.
You see, so I was very curious to see if I was right. So I took a trench, a small trial trench, and just like this, we could see that we are talking about the real thing. This was a big relief, you can imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, so further, later on, we found all these crushed pitoi, the largest vessels ever found in Jerusalem, crushed on the original floor layer of this structure.
How many?
And 12 altogether.
12 together?
7 and 5.
And so you had to reconstruct all 12 of them, put them back together.
Yeah, and these are so large. And it's really fantastic vessels. Look how high they are. And at the same time, they have a very small opening. So there is no question that they stored here something. But the question is what? Water? I don't think so. Probably some precious liquid of some sort. I don't know what. Maybe not liquid. But at the same time, how would they think about, pulling out whatever it was there? And at the very bottom, this is still an enigma. It's not like we found something, that they could use. But such a small, I don't know, I have no answer for this.
You didn't find any big straws?
No, maybe it was made out of wood. So we didn't find, it was not preserved. The thing is that on one of them, there is, incision of a palm tree. So I don't know, maybe, it's kind of wine, I don't know what it can be.
And then there's one that has an inscription on it. And tell us about that.
Yeah, one of the pitoi, the large vessels, had an Hebrew inscription on it, saying can be clearly read in Hebrew, in ancient Hebrew, which is very easy because it has only 22 letters, very easily read.
Right.
It says in Hebrew, Lesar ha'o, meaning to the minister, belong to the minister of O. O, it means probably Ofim. Ofim in Hebrew, it's a bakery.
Okay.
And we know from the story of Joseph that bakery is not just baking a bread. It's a whole.
It was a big job.
Getting oil and getting flour and getting everything. And this is for the palace complex and palace. It's a huge thing to be responsible for the bakery of the royalty. Wow. So most probably this was the storehouse at the basement of one of the ministers responsible for this. In this royal acropolis, Jerusalem, near the gatehouse.
Right. So these are all replicas.
Oh yeah.
And the originals are in the Bible Lands Museum, you said, in Jerusalem?
They're kept in the museum, in the Israel Antiquities Authority storehouses, and they are presented in exhibitions, and very pretty soon one of them will be at your exhibition, right?
That's right. Tell us which one is coming over to Armstrong Auditorium for our exhibition.
Yeah, the exhibition is going to be, they're very significant, very important, because we picked up very beautiful items, most indicative and important ones from their original places.
Right.
And you're going to see one of them. It's one of the 12 and one of the nicest.
One of the nicest is coming to Edmond. We're going to have it there for probably 4 or 5 months this next concert season. All the concert goers in Edmond that'll be coming in for the foundation events will be able to peruse all of the artifacts that we've brought over, not just one of these jars, but also a number of other things. There's all kinds of pieces that your assistant has compiled and pulled together. We're shipping them over to Edmond, and they're going to be on display in Edmond, Oklahoma. So that's very exciting for us. We're very
also for us, we are very excited because this is one of the things that we want to share our enthusiasm and results. And I'm very happy about this exhibition. I think it's important, and therefore we picked very significant items from the excavations. The thing is, one more very important issue that we have to mention. It's true that this structure and monumental construction that we see all over, which is following the fortification line in this area of the Ophel, the Acropolis of Biblical Jerusalem. The thing is that we know very well about the destruction at 586 BCE by the Babylonians. One of the major issues was when this was constructed, who built these fortifications? And in order to prove, we had to show archaeologically. Either we can prove it or not. I mean, this was an open case. But we were lucky, very lucky, because it turned out, as you can see, all over the place, we have 2 floors. The floor of the pitoi is the latest floor, but there is an earlier one that was using the same walls as we see. And the material from under the earliest floor contained only 10th century BCE pottery. Nothing later, which means that the construction was these buildings were constructed sometime around the second half of the 10th century. It's very hard to say exactly when, because pottery indicates 25, 30, 40 years here and there. It's very hard to say a specific year. But this is the time. It's not the 7th century BC, it's not 8th century, as many other people want to say. We have scientific evidence of construction of these fantastic fortification line at sometimes around the 10th century BC, meaning it goes so well with the biblical description about King Solomon building this fortification line.
Right. And the second floor would have just been like during a remodeling
renovation
later,
at the 8th century, and a renovation, and then they had this storehouse, which is so incredibly impressive. But at the same time, the construction phase is
earlier, Solomon's age.
Solomon's age, exactly.
Great. Well, okay, so after 1987, I think it was 2007 when we were over digging with you at the City of David, some of our students.
Right.
And you suggested coming over here and viewing this. It was one of your, every time it was mentioned, it sort of made you cringe because you thought about all of the trees and the weeds and everything, it was just overgrown. You couldn't see.
It was very
and this is really the most impressive part of the whole Davidson Archaeology Park. And so what led up to the just resuming the project here, cleaning it up, getting it set up for tourists, and then what added to that with the most recent phase of excavation here? What did you learn during this latest phase that you can add to what you discovered back in 1987, 86?
Actually, you absolutely described it beautifully. Like, it was very frustrating, knowing the great remains that are hidden here, covered with vegetations and weeds. It was impossible even to show and to walk in and to explain and show people there is a great preservation of earlier, biblical times in Jerusalem. And this goes opposite to other claims, very strongly so, that nothing preserved from these periods in Jerusalem, which is absolutely not the case. And we see just on the surface level, we can find, look up here, this is the surface level. First temple period construction is just, a meter under surface layer. This is unbelievable.
Right.
So it was so important to show. The thing is that, like, for 20 years since we ended our excavations, I believe that it will take, going to take a year until I find the funds in order to prepare the area. And it took like 20, more years until I found somebody who cared. And this just takes a person who cares, sometimes one person, or mostly one person who cares. That people, you need is support. I mean, it's not a matter of municipality, it's not a government, they have too much on their heads.
Right.
We need people who care. Mm-hmm. It goes with the ambassadors, I can tell you, that people who care and they contribute and they make the difference. So this was Daniel and Meredith Means, dear friends, who were just kept coming to Jerusalem and saying, it's still covered with vegetation. So yes, I mean, hey guys, if you won't take it, nobody will. I mean, we're waiting for the people to help us. So they decided to do so. And since then, like, it took like 2 years and everything is done. And this is so important because it's important to excavate. It's important to write the scientific reports, not less than revealing the remains. To write popular books whatsoever, but if you don't show and make it tangible, mm-hmm. you miss such an important percentage of what can be done. So I'm very happy that people can come, study, learn, and feel, and see for themselves. And you cannot ignore. I mean, it was so easy to ignore, which was hidden under the vegetation. Although I published it scientifically, it didn't help.
Yeah.
But now
originally, basically, we had to walk up there, and all you could do is just look at it, and it was
imagine what's underneath.
Right, it was overgrown. And now, like you say, you have these replicas. You can touch, you can rub up against the wall. You can come right down to the lowest level, almost to the floor, and walk on the floor.
And this is your other question, which is not less important. What we found now in these excavations, the recent excavations were just in order to focus on the areas that were prepared for opening the garden. Right? So, but at the same time, in these excavations, we got the chance in front of the gatehouse, in this area, to get more 10th century material from different places at the complex, in order to show that the lower phase, the construction phase, is including only 10th century pottery for the latest. Meaning that the whole complex was erected at that some time, and it's on one complex. Now we got a lot of pottery from 10th century Jerusalem that was never revealed before anywhere else. So a 10th century, like Solomonic time in Jerusalem, is very much on the plan now, on the map now. Can't be ignored.
Yeah, that's great. So that's you kind of answered it, but I guess the one of the last questions I wanted to ask was, what is for the average tourist that comes through, how significant is their visit to this very area? And it's not quite, as you were telling us, it's not quite open for tourists, even though you had your grand opening in June. It's about to be open for the general public. And what is it that you would encourage them the most with, as far as why they need to come here when they come to Jerusalem?
This is the only place that you can visit the first temple period structure in Jerusalem until now, that you can walk inside this construction from that early period, knowing that it was built at the time of King Solomon. I mean, there is no other place like this. Until today, we couldn't really reveal, we didn't have the chance to reveal anything that we can say this is King Solomon's time. This was built by King Solomon. So not only that we can walk inside the first of a period construction, I mean, you don't have the chance to do so, it's fantastic by itself, but this is as early as King Solomon's and built by him, and it's part of the fortification line that really circles the whole Temple Mount. So if people are studying this place and getting to know the place, they know much more about the history and topography and biblical Jerusalem in a general. It's come as close as can be to biblical Jerusalem, especially at the time of King David and Solomon.
Now the official opening back in June, I know you had the mayor here and there was a few stories that we saw back in the States that reported on this. On the whole, do you feel like that the publicity or the news coverage was enough, or do you feel like there should have been more attention drawn to this location?
I believe all these things takes time. It's not just one ceremony issue.
Right.
It doesn't. Everything we do here, as far as I learn how things go, it's a matter of time. We have to give it time. People acknowledge, although it's very important, it takes people to acknowledge it takes its time. So I do believe we are planting the seeds now in order, for the future. We shouldn't expect, to see great results. It's not like, sending the ship to the moon. This is not the case. It's the results. The important is for years to come, maybe for generations to come. I do emphasize the great contribution that we showed, that the great potential of revealing ancient Jerusalem, especially biblical Jerusalem, is not only there and can be reached relatively easy, but the preservation is fantastic. So it's not like really investing and searching for it is getting a most probable great results in order to be revealed. It's quite a safe investment in that case.
Well, and then lastly, why don't you tell us what your grand plan is for the future? You told us coming down here that you'd like to push a little bit further in this direction if you stayed here. This is assuming if you dug over here, you also have your heart set on some further excavations down in the city of David, just across the street. But if you were to continue in this area, what would your hope be?
Well, I must modestly say that this is not one person's work. I mean, Jerusalem is going to be revealed for many years to come. Young generations is coming after us and afterwards, and it's a generation's work. But if we talk about me, what I want to do, my small contribution, I do eager to complete our excavations that the Ambassador College was a major part of revealing King David's palace. This is at the city of David, at the summit of the hill. We revealed a very significant part of the palace. I think that we showed in the beginning that the dating to the first half of the 10th century is really establishing quite well. But just as in here, we need more. We need, actually, I believe that we can reveal the whole palace. And this will be a great, very, not only impressive, but most important contribution.
And to this point, you feel like there's only been about 10 to 25%? Is that what you've said that has been revealed?
Less than 1/4, yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
And you feel like you can reveal all of it if some things happen?
It's easy. It's impossible. It's possible very easily to draw the limits more and less because the topography is very clear, and it seems like the palace was occupying the highest point, so it can be really limited. The area is limited, and can be excavated in the future.
Right.
No big deal. It needs to be done. I believe it's going to be like near future, sometime. I don't know. You never know. This is one thing. And the next, I do want to reveal more of this fortification line of the Ophel. If it will be the great tower, which is waiting to be revealed, and we know it's there, height, preserved height, at such a height of 20 meters height. It's going to be one of the most impressive parts of the fortifications. And it continues, and it includes whatever is left from King Solomon's palace. I mean, remains are there. This is part that I want to continue.
The tower under the road you're talking about.
The tower under the road.
So just so that you know, we're standing in the royal complex. Across the road is where she dug King David's palace, and this main road basically it's the one road from, I mean, is there any other main artery here? I mean, after the road, it just goes straight down.
Yes. So this is a major road.
So her grand vision is to build a bridge of some kind so that the excavation process can continue to push through the road to reveal the tower that we know is there because of whose work previously?
It's Charles Warren's in the 18th century. He already showed that the Great Tower is underneath. He documented it by
Which is part of all this complex.
Oh yes, it's the Great Tower in front of the city gate. It's a well-known biblical plan for city gates. It's there. Okay, and you say bridge like it's something, you know, it's not that sophisticated.
Not a big deal.
It's not a big deal. It's not. Much more complicated stuff have been done in many other places in the world. It's not something complicated. The thing is that it needs to be done, and more of the fortification line and the houses inwards, meaning the King Solomon's palace. This is my share, okay? The rest of it is open.
Well, we sure appreciate your time today. You've been very generous taking us around the park and giving us this presentation to our audience back home that I know is going to be very excited to see this when it plays. So,
well, maybe this is my opportunity to say so many thanks to you, to your father, and the old ambassadors that are participating in our discovering of King David's palace. The participation is not something regular. It's not like coming, volunteer, excavate, go home. You're really taking actual part, not just excavating, learning the methodology of excavating. Some of the students of the Ambassador College became area supervisors, great, very good one, area supervisors. Processing the finds, we worked with the students for months, as you know. They settled in Jerusalem, they join us every day, we work together. So the contribution is educational, is intelligence, it's part of it, and I'm very proud of this, you know, varying partnership, and I'm looking forward for many years to come because it gives us great joy.
Well, we sure appreciate it. The feeling's mutual. I know there's going to be a lot of students watching this that can't wait to be over here when the next phase gets off and running. So thank you again for everything.
Sure, thank you.
And thank all of you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. If you'd like to learn more about the Armstrong International Cultural Foundation and the many humanitarian and cultural projects that we help fund and sponsor, just call the number on your screen and we'll send you a free copy of this brochure. Inside this beautiful publication, you'll learn more about our historic relationship with Dr. Mazar and her family, dating all the way back to Herbert W. Armstrong and Benjamin Mazar, Eilat's grandfather, and the Temple Mount excavations of the 1960s and 70s. Now when you call, make sure you also ask for this new Trumpet Daily reprint, Found King Solomon's Wall. As we mentioned on yesterday's program, those who relegate King David and his son Solomon to the realm of petty tribal chieftains or even myth are having a lot of explaining to do lately because of the many recent stunning discoveries in the world of archaeology. Call our operators today and ask for the Trumpet Daily reprint series on Solomon's Wall, as well as the brochure about our foundation. There's no cost or obligation. Everything has already been paid for. Now, if you'd like to receive copies of these publications right now, you can find both of them online at thetrumpetdaily.com. Just go to our website, thetrumpetdaily.com, and look for the free literature at the top right-hand corner of the page. That's thetrumpetdaily.com. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you again tomorrow.